Good morning, everybody. And Joe, thanks for inviting me. I think I wanted to take a chance to talk about something that's kind of popped up, I think, over the last probably 12 to 18 months, and that's the changing retail and distribution environment. I think over the last probably 2 decades, or maybe even more for an industry, we've not spent a whole lot of time on distribution. It's not been our core competency. We've not really done a whole lot with the distribution. And I wanted to point out, which is, I believe, is a changing environment and something that we're going to have to spend a little bit more time on. And so, Joe, can I get these things going? Green? Alrighty, well, let me just keep talking then, because we don't need slides. So let me, Joey, if I'm going to keep going, and as soon as we get my slides up, we'll go. So what I wanted to kind of initially talk about is the current distribution is very traditional. We've got an amount of drugs going through the retail area that goes out to the wholesalers, the distributors, be it the distribution centers, and then subsequent, we also have products going through the hospital piece. And when it goes through the hospital and also the retail side, it generally goes to the McKessons of the world, the Matrix of the world, then goes to the pharmacy, then goes to the patient. There's also a little bit of a channel that's started to open up with specialty distributors. And the specialty distributors are really looking at how does that get out to the patient. And these are some more the biologics, the new novel products that need to get into the patient's hands quicker, a little bit more efficiently, needs to get in some information on how to use the drugs. These are drugs more like in the MS area, and that's expanding in the cancer area and other areas where it's getting direct to the patients. And that's a very traditional approach. However, there's been some changes. And our provincial governments, God love their souls, are starting to look at the distribution center and the efficiencies in the distribution center. And is the distribution component in the retail area efficient? And most recently, you've got in Ontario the drug renewal system that has thrown out many, many new concepts and ideas. And in those new concepts and ideas, they put in the concept that says they're going to reduce generic pricing. They're going to reduce generic pricing. They've thrown around numbers of 25%. That's a huge impact. That's not only a huge impact to the generic industry, but that's a huge impact to the distribution center and to the retail area that counts on a lot of profitability coming out of that cut in price and what that means to professional allowances. They've also talked about the impact to pharmacy prescribing and how pharmacy prescribing will happen, and giving rights to pharmacists and looking at different distribution options. And they've talked about Bill 179. And Bill 179 is going to be a change in the way pharmacists dispense, prescribe, and looking at how that changes the system. They've also talked about novel distribution approaches. And so they've outlined in saying, is there better ways of getting products distributed to the market? And they're looking at opportunities such as kiosks. The banking industry many, many years ago fought whether there was going to be an ATM. And how many of us actually stand in line in a bank anymore? And now all of a sudden in the distribution industry there's kiosks. And this is basically a dispensing ATM. And how long will it take before people look at saying, I'm not going to wait at a pharmacy behind the counter for my drugs, but I'm going to go to the ATM that may be attached to the pharmacy, maybe put in a mall somewhere, but I'm going to get my drugs in a different way. I'm either going to order them online or I'm going to get it out of a kiosk. And so, are those my slides? Am I staying pretty much to script? Perfect. Okay, so those that are following on my slides, I'm on the distribution economics redefined. Thanks, Joe. Joe, do you have my glasses? You're blind. I can see better without them.
They're not bifocals, they're transition.
I'm not even going to go there, Joe. It's too easy. So the distribution economics are going to be redefined. And in essence, it can be questioned whether the manufacturers are going to make more or less. But I've kind of outlined in the sense they're probably going to be around the same from a profitability perspective. The pharmacists are going to be challenged if it goes forth, the drug renewal goes forward. There's going to be a huge hit from a profitability perspective. What does this mean? Does this mean the death of the independents? When you walk around and talk to some of the retailers, they're talking about the death of the independents. Is that possible? They own about 11% of the market right now, but that's a distinct possibility. You know, and also from a wholesale perspective. Right now the wholesale system works in Ontario where there's an 8% distribution allowance. Well, the wholesaler doesn't actually get that 8% because it goes back to the retailers and wholesalers trying to get business from the pharmacies. And so all of a sudden, the distribution economics, which I don't think from an industry we've paid too much attention to because we basically have a customer service that takes orders and sends out products, is going to change for us. And so in essence, what's going to happen? I'm going to talk a little bit about future trends. And so from a future trends perspective, what does this mean? You know, what's going to go on? Can you bring up, if you